Here we'll do another example of unit conversion that needs 2 steps. We're asked to find the number of cups in 2.5 gallons. Let's begin with gallons and see what gallons is related to. The only statement in the first line that contains gallons is this statement saying that gallons can be converted to quarts. We're going to make a note that we could change from gallons to quarts and write that that is step 1. At the end of step 1, we will have quarts. The other statement in the first line tells us that we could change from quarts to cups. So we'll draw another arrow, we'll write that this will be our step 2, and we will use that second piece of information to change from quarts to cups. Now we look at our problem statement, and we note that we're going for cups as our final answer. This means that if we do these 2 conversions, we will start with gallons and end with cups. We need to be a little careful here because we're given 2.5 gallons. 2.5 is a mixed number, and we don't want to use mixed numbers when we do our unit conversion. We're going to rewrite this mixed number. Rather than saying 2.5, we'll say 2 plus 1 divided by 2. The 1 divided by 2 represents a half, and the 2 represents the whole number, and we're going to add them together. We'll place this in the calculator, and the calculator will change this to a decimal for us. We start with 2 and say plus 1, and then say divide by 2. When we press enter, we get 2.5. This means we will not start with our mixed number, we will instead start with 2.5. We'll also make a note that this will be in gallons. Lower on our page, we will say 2.5 gallons. We'll multiply this by a fraction. Our first fraction will start with gallons and give us quarts as an answer. Since I began with gallons, gallons must move to the bottom on the next fraction. On the top, I'll place what I get at the end of step 1, that's quarts. Below this fraction, I'll remind myself that 1 gallon is the same as 4 quarts. Now we locate these quantities in our fraction. Our 1 gallon is located on the bottom in the fraction we just wrote. We'll make a note of that now. Our 4 quarts, therefore, must go to the top. For that reason, I'll write a 4 next to the quarts and a 1 next to the gallons. Now we could do this arithmetic right now and get quarts. However, we know there's a second step coming, and in that second step we'll be changing to cups. To shortcut the math a little bit, we can put another multiplication sign and then another division bar. Our second step will have us going from quarts to cups. So let's look for a piece of information in the problem statement that has quarts and cups. Note that we have 1 quart equaling 4 cups. So let's write that as well. In our first set of fractions, since we have gallons on top and gallons on bottom, we can cross those out. This leaves us with quarts. However, these quarts we will place now on the bottom of the next fraction. We're also going to put the units that we need on the top of that second fraction, and that's cups. Now we'll examine the statement 1 quart equals 4 cups. On our fraction, the quarts are on the bottom, so we'll make a note of that here. We know this because we wrote the letters before we dealt with any of the numbers. The cups are on the top, and we'll make a note of that as well. Since we have 1 quart on the bottom, we will place a 1 next to quarts, and we'll place a 4 next to cups, because we know that 4 must go on the top and the 1 must go on the bottom. Now we can do our fraction math. We can take 2.5, multiply by 4, and multiply by another 4. Again, we're going to multiply straight across the top. On the bottom, we have 1 and 1, so we'll say 1 times 1 on the bottom. 1 times 1 will just give us 1, and on the top we can multiply 2.5 times 4 times another 4. We enter our 2.5 and multiply by 4, and then multiply again by another 4. When we press enter, we get 40. If we take 40 divided by 1, dividing by 1 will not change our answer. This means we'll get 40 as our final number. To finish writing our answer, let's look for any units we can cross out. Since we have a quarts on top and another quarts on bottom, we can cross both of those out, leaving us with just cups. This means our final answer will be 40 cups. And that's what we wanted at the end of this question, because the question asked to find the number of cups. So keep in mind, if you need to do 2 conversions, you can do a straight multiplication of multiple fractions. Larger problems might even require 3 or 4 conversions. You can do those the same way.